There is a mistake that comes from the very best place in the human heart. It is made not out of greed or carelessness or foolishness, but out of love, pure, generous, parental love. And that is exactly what makes it so hard to see, and so common, and so quietly damaging. It is the mistake of giving money to your children the wrong way, at the wrong time, for the wrong reasons. And it can harm the parents who give, the children who receive, and the relationship between them, all at once, while everyone involved believes they are doing something good. I want to tell you about a man. We'll call him Walter, which, I will admit, is a name close to my own heart. But this Walter is not me. He is a composite of many good men I have known. Walter was a father who adored his children. He had worked hard his whole life. He had saved, and nothing gave him more joy than helping his kids. When one needed help with a down payment, Walter was there. When another hit a rough patch, Walter quietly covered it. When a grandchild needed something, Walter reached for his checkbook before anyone even asked. He gave and gave and gave, because giving to his children was, to him, the whole point of having worked so hard. And slowly, without ever making a single dramatic mistake, Walter gave away the security of his own retirement, one loving gift at a time, until he found himself, in his late 70s, quietly worried about money in a way he never let his children see. By the end of this, you will understand the most common ways that well-meaning parents damage their own retirement and even their children through the way they give, why the timing and the structure of giving matters as much as the amount, how giving too much can quietly harm the very children it is meant to help, and how the wisest parents I ever knew found a way to be genuinely generous without endangering themselves or weakening their families. Because generosity is a beautiful thing. This is not a video against it. It is a video about how to make your generosity actually work for everyone, instead of quietly backfiring. Now, the honesty I always give you. I am not here to tell you to stop helping your children. That is your money, your family, and your love to give, and no one has the right to lecture you about it. What I am here to do is show you the traps that catch the most loving parents, so that your generosity is wise as well as warm, and so that in helping your children, you do not accidentally harm them, or yourself. The goal is not less love, it is love that actually lands where you intend it to. So let's start with the first and most dangerous mistake, the one Walter made, giving away your own security. This is the parent who helps so much, so consistently, that they quietly undermine their own retirement. And here is the hard truth that loving parents resist hearing. The single most important financial gift you can give your children is your own security. Let me say that again, because it turns everything around. Your own financial independence is itself a gift to your children. Because the parent who protects their own retirement is the parent who will never, one day, become a financial burden on their kids. The parent who gives away too much, on the other hand, may be handing their children a wonderful gift today and setting them up to have to support an impoverished parent tomorrow. Think about which of those is truly the greater act of love. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do for your children is to make absolutely sure they will never have to worry about you. And I want you to really sit with how this trap works, because it is not one big reckless decision. If Walter had been asked, at any single moment, to hand over half his savings, he would have said, "No, of course, that would be foolish." The danger is never the single large gift. It is the accumulation of small ones, each one entirely reasonable on its own, each one easy to say yes to, none of them alarming in isolation. A down payment here, covering a shortfall there, a generous check at the holidays, a grandchild's tuition. Every one of them, is a small, loving yes. And it is only when you add up 10 years of small, loving yeses that you see the foundation has quietly eroded. That is why this mistake is so hard to catch. There is never a moment that feels like the mistake. There is only, years later, the result of 100 moments that each felt like love. There is also a particular danger for the parent who gives to a child in genuine, recurring trouble, because that is the giving that most easily runs away with a retirement. A child with money problems, or a struggling business, or one crisis after another, can become, without anyone intending it, a slow drain on a parent who simply cannot bear to say no. And the heartbreak is that this steady rescue often does not even solve the child's underlying problem. It merely funds it, while quietly draining the parent. That is the cruelest version of the trap, because it hurts both people at once, the parent's security and the child's growth, all through an act that feels like nothing but love. The second mistake is giving in a way that quietly weakens the child. And this one is delicate, because it touches something painful. Money given to a grown child at the wrong moment, or in the wrong way, can sometimes rob that child of the very growth and struggle that would have made them stronger. The child who is always rescued may never learn to rescue themselves. The adult, who never faces the natural consequences of their choices, may never develop the muscles that only difficulty builds. I am not saying never help. I am saying that help, given carelessly, can sometimes become a soft cage. The wisest parents I knew thought carefully about whether a particular gift would truly lift their child up, or would quietly keep them from ever standing fully on their own. That is a hard question to ask about your own child. But love asks hard questions. Let me speak to you directly for a moment, because I suspect this is stirring something in some of you. Perhaps you recognize a little of Walter in yourself. Perhaps you have felt that pull, the deep joy of giving to your kids, and also a quiet worry underneath it that you push away. If so, I want you to know there is nothing wrong with the love. The love is good. It is only the structure that sometimes needs wisdom. That is what this channel is for. Taking the warm, good impulses of a lifetime and making sure they are also wise. So, subscribe and stay with me, because now I want to show you how the careful parents gave generously and safely, both at once. So how did the wise ones do it? How did they remain genuinely, joyfully generous without falling into Walter's trap? Let me walk you through what they understood. The first thing they did was simple, and it is the foundation of everything. They secured their own retirement first, fully, before giving. They made sure that their own future, including the possibility of long-term care we talked about before, was genuinely provided for. And only then, from the surplus, from what was truly extra, did they give. This is not selfishness. It is the same principle they tell you on an airplane. Secure your own oxygen mask before helping others, because a parent who has run out of air cannot help anyone. The wise parent gives from genuine surplus, not from the foundation of their own security. The second thing they understood was the power of giving while living, but doing it thoughtfully. There is something beautiful about being able to help your children while you are still here to see the good it does, rather than only through an inheritance after you are gone. Watching a grandchild go to school, seeing a family settle into a first home, being present for the joy your help creates. The wise parents often preferred this warm hand of giving while living, over the cold hand of giving only after death. But, and this is the key, they did it from surplus, in measured ways, with clear eyes, not in a way that endangered themselves. And there is a real wisdom in this, beyond the joy of it, because giving while living lets you give with guidance, not just money. When you help a child while you are still here, you can talk with them about it, share what you have learned, help them use the gift well, watch how they handle it, and adjust. A sum that simply lands in a person's lap after a parent dies arrives with no wisdom attached to it, no conversation, no context, and it is far more easily wasted. The gift given while living can carry the giver's judgment and love alongside it. That is something no inheritance can do. The parents who gave this way were not only being generous sooner, they were being generous more effectively, because they were present to help their generosity actually work. But I will offer one caution even here, because giving while living has its own quiet risk. It is easy, once you begin, for the giving to become continuous, expected, woven into the ordinary running of a child's life, until it is no longer a gift at all, but a dependency. The wise parents kept their giving while living intentional and occasional, tied to real moments and real needs, rather than letting it dissolve into a steady stream that neither party even noticed anymore. A gift should feel like a gift, to both people. The moment it becomes simply the background hum of a child's finances, it has stopped doing the good it was meant to do, and started doing quiet harm instead. The third thing, and it matters enormously, is that they were fair and clear to protect the family itself. Money among family members is one of the great destroyers of family peace. When one child receives much more than another, when gifts are secret, when expectations are unspoken, resentments grow in the dark that can poison a family for generations after the parents are gone. The wisest parents were thoughtful about fairness, and about clarity, and about communication. They understood that how they gave, and how openly, could either bind their family together or quietly tear it apart, long after they were no longer there to mediate. Let me give you a picture of how this goes wrong, because it is so common and so avoidable. One child lives nearby and is always helped, in small quiet ways, over many years. A little here, a little there, never counted. Another child lives far away and receives little, simply because they were not present to receive it. The parents never intended any unfairness. They were simply responding to who was in the room. But when the parents are gone and the family sits down together, the distant child slowly realizes how much more the nearby one received across the years, and a wound opens that no will can heal. The parents meant only love. What they left behind was a quiet grievance between siblings that outlived them. The wise parents guarded against this, not by treating everyone identically down to the dollar, which is rarely possible, but by being open, by explaining their reasoning, by making sure that nothing festered in secret. Sunlight, they understood, is what keeps money from poisoning a family. And there is a related truth here about expectations. When parents give generously and regularly, children can quietly come to expect it, to build their lives around it, to feel entitled to it, without anyone ever saying so out loud. Then, if the giving must stop, because the parent's own needs finally demand it, the child experiences the stopping as a betrayal rather than as the natural end of a generosity that was never owed. The wise parents were careful never to let their giving harden into an assumed entitlement, precisely because they loved their children enough to want them building their own lives, not waiting on the next gift. And the fourth thing, which ties directly to earlier conversations we have had, is that they thought about the smart structure of giving. There are wiser and less wise ways to transfer money to the people you love, ways that consider taxes, ways that protect the gift, ways that make sure more of what you give actually reaches its purpose, rather than leaking away. This is exactly the kind of thing where sitting down, once, with a good fee-only advisor or estate professional can make an enormous difference, ensuring that your generosity is structured to do the most good and the least harm. Love provides the intention. Good structure makes sure the intention actually arrives intact. I want to return to that hardest idea, the one about weakening the child, because I do not want to be misunderstood. There is a difference between help that empowers and help that enables, and every loving parent has to feel for that line themselves. Help that empowers gives a child a foundation to build on, and then lets them build. Help that enables removes the need to build at all. A gift toward an education, a hand up into a first home, support through a genuine crisis. These tend to empower. Endless rescue from the consequences of poor choices, the erasing of every difficulty, the removal of every struggle. These tend to enable. The wise parents were not stingy. They were discerning. They gave in ways that made their children stronger, and they were willing, out of a deeper love, to sometimes withhold in ways that let their children grow. That takes more love, not less, because it is harder. Let me bring Walter back, because his story, like the others, holds its lesson. Walter never made a dramatic mistake. That is what makes his story so important. He simply loved his children, and gave, guided only by the warmth of his heart, and never by any structure or plan. And that unstructured love slowly hollowed out his own security, until the man who had spent his life making sure his children never worried was himself lying awake, worrying, hiding it from them so as not to burden them. Had Walter secured his own future first, given only from true surplus, thought about fairness and structure and the difference between empowering and enabling, he could have been every bit as generous, brought his family every bit as much joy, and never once endangered himself. The love was never the problem. The love was beautiful. It only needed wisdom alongside it. That is all. That is the whole lesson. So let's bring it all together. The most loving parents can quietly damage their own retirement, and even their children, through the way they give. Giving away your own security is the gravest danger, and the truth that turns it around is that your own financial independence is itself a gift to your children, sparing them from ever having to carry you. Giving carelessly can weaken the very child it means to help, and wisdom lies in telling empowering help from enabling rescue. And the careful parent secures themselves first, gives joyfully from true surplus, stays fair and clear to protect the peace of the family, and structures their giving so that it actually arrives whole. Generosity is one of the great joys of a life's work. It deserves to be done wisely, so that it blesses everyone and quietly harms no one. It is, above all, a decision, not whether to love your children, but how to let that love actually do the good you intend. And it is a decision the most generous hearts are the most likely to get wrong. Before you go, tell me something in the comments. Have you ever held back from helping a grown child, out of a deeper sense that the struggle would serve them better than the rescue? Or have you given and watched it do real good? Both are worth sharing, because these are the quiet dilemmas of every loving parent, and no one talks about them honestly enough. And if you want the rest of these, the decisions that define your retirement, and the ones you can't undo, then subscribe and stay with me. There is a new file every week. The next one is about the moment you actually stop working, and a decision that millions get wrong out of sheer exhaustion. Whether to retire the moment you can, or whether waiting just a little longer changes everything, and how to know which is right for you. Take your time with these. They are the decisions of a lifetime, and a lifetime of work has earned them your patience.